Hello my sweet friends and welcome to DIY with Nadia. I have my sweet Simba with me today, and in today's video we are going to do a flower wreath. Now instead of the usual 10-inch deco mesh, I am going to use a 21-inch roll of deco mesh, and look at this beautiful lilac color. I think it's absolutely adorable. For the base, we are going to use a bicycle wheel frame, and we are going to have a gorgeous, full, beautiful flower wreath. You ready to get started, Simba? Yay! Let's go. Let's go over the supplies for this wreath. Starting with a gorgeous lilac 21-inch deco mesh that is 10 yards in length. I will also be using this yellow deco mesh that is 5.5 inches in width and 10 yards in length. You're not going to use the whole roll of this, maybe 1/3 to a half of this roll. The last mesh that I'm going to be using is this beautiful decorative mesh. I know it has kind of snow on it, but I love using this mesh when I make these flowers. For the leaves on my flower, I'm going to actually use a piece of felt. This is felt from the Dollar Tree. It's the soft type of felt, which is great because we do need to bring it together to make the little petals, and we'll see how this turns out. You're also going to need some pipe cleaners. You can use 3 to 4, cut them in half. You're going to have 6-inch little strips. As usual, I'll just fold them like this and put them to the side. Next, you're going to need a pack of zip ties because that is how we're going to attach all our petals. And then, of course, we're going to use a bicycle wheel wreath form. Okay, my friends, to get this party started, we are going to cut our deco mesh. Roll out my deco mesh. I'm going to be cutting my deco mesh into 10-inch strips. Before I start cutting, I want to make sure my deco mesh is fairly straight. Let me get this little corner that's sticking out. I'll be using my favorite rotary cutter, and I always have a link for this in my description box under supplies that I use daily, and also in my Amazon shop. And by the way, this little baby comes in different colors, and I love that. And it does actually come in purple. Anyone else a fan of purple? Purple is my mom's favorite color. So this little one is going to be for my mom. To collect all my petals while I'm cutting them, I have a laundry basket next to me where I'm collecting all of them. Next, we're going to take our beautiful yellow deco mesh, and we're going to be cutting it to make cruffles. These are going to go in the center of our flower, and I think it's going to be so beautiful. I usually like to cut this type of deco mesh, meaning the 5.5-inch to 6-inch deco mesh for cruffles, at 22 inches. You can cut a little smaller, like 20, or a little longer at 24 or 26. That's definitely up to you. The felt that I'm going to be using is actually leftover felt, and I have about 20 inches left, so I'm going to fold it in 3. It's going to go down to about 7 inches, 6.5, somewhere around there. Because this is felt, I think we're going to be just fine. Our decorative mesh is 3 yards in length, and that means it's 108 inches. If we cut our decorative mesh into 6 by 6 inch squares, that's going to give us 18 pieces, and that is exactly how many we need for this wreath. Don't you just love it when you're working on a project and you get to use up the entire roll of either ribbon or mesh or whatever you're using, and you know that nothing went to waste? For this wreath, we're going to work outside in, layer by layer, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to first do the outside layer, and all I'm doing here is grab my zip tie and go in until it clicks, 1 or 2 clicks. That's it. And let it go. And this I'm going to do going all the way around to all 12 of the spikes. Now that I have a zip tie on all 12 spikes, I'm going to start by making my first petal. to get started on my petal, I'm going to make sure I have a cutting mat because I'm going to use it as a guide to make sure I'm in the center when I'm starting the petal, especially if your deco mesh doesn't have any decor. Mine does in the center. It has like these gold little foil strips, but that's okay. I'm still going to use this as a guide. All our pieces are going to have the cut edge, of course, and the factory edge. The factory edge is the really thick one. And so the first thing we're going to do after we center our little piece of deco mesh is bring the factory edge towards the center and bring the other factory edge towards the center and overlap it just a little bit. It doesn't have to be exact. The next thing I want to do is bring cut edge to cut edge. To make it easier for me, I'm going to twist it a little bit, and then all I'm doing here is cut edge to cut edge. Now I'm just going to line up my cut edge, and this is where we're going to make it zero fray. We're just going to start collecting at the edge to make sure everything is collected just like this. There is my first petal. There is my tail. And now I'm going to put my tail right into my first zip tie. Make sure everything is in and make sure both sides are even. And now I'm going to zip tie it in place. There is my first petal. How exciting. At this point, I'm really going to tug and make sure that it's nice and secure. It will still be able to go up and down. Grabbing my cute little wire cutters, I'm going to cut off the tail. If this part is bothering you, you can definitely cut that off and even it out, but it should be fine because it's all going to blend in when we put in the rest of the layers. Now we're going to move on to our next petal. First, we're going to center it on our cutting mat. Factory edge, bring that in. Factory edge, bring that in. We're just overlapping it. And then we're going to fold so that our cut edges are all together. Cut edge to cut edge. Then we're just going to line up that deco mesh to make sure that we can collect it nice and even. Starting at one side, I'm just collecting about 1/2 inch to 1 inch somewhere in that area and bringing everything together. Put the tail into our zip tie. And by the way, my zip ties are the 6-inch zip ties. Got the tail and cut any of the fraying on the deco mesh tail. As you can see, it's very tight here and it's still movable, so that if you want to make your flower a little smaller, you can definitely do that. A little larger, you can definitely do that. Now I'm going to continue and attach the rest of the petals to the outside row, and we're going to attach them to all 12 spikes. The first row of petals is all on, and at this point you may look at your wreath and wonder, okay, how should I lay them out? Are they supposed to be sticking out? Are they supposed to be just layered one on top of the other? So here is what I do. I lay one in the back and pull one to the front. Lay one in the back and pull this next one to the front. What this does is it kind of raises the wreath a little bit. Next, I'm going to grab 12 zip ties once again and attach them to our wreath base. A few clicks. There you go. My zip ties are all on, and what we're going to do for row 2 from the outside is we're going to put a petal on every other of the spikes. So not every other. I'm attaching it just like I attached the petals in the outside row. In row 2, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 petals. Now I'm going to grab my decorative mesh and I'm just going to gather 1 inch in. After I gather, I'm going to attach it, and that's it. Just gather and attach. This part's gonna go really quick. Row 2 is done. I'm going to just spread the petals out so that we can get into another row. And on this third row, we're going to do exactly what we did on row 2, except opposite. In the spikes where I have my decorative mesh, I'm going to put a petal. And in the spikes where I have my petal, I'm going to put a decorative mesh. So we're going to need 12 zip ties once again. Row 3 zip ties are all on. Now I'm going to go ahead and make my petals. I have decorative mesh on this spike, so now I'm going to put my little petal on. And we're going to move things around at the end. Right now, all we're going to worry about is putting on this third layer. All 6 petals on row 3 are on, and now I'm going to grab my decorative mesh and attach it between these petals. Look how beautiful our flower is. I'm going to stretch it out a little bit more. If you want to stop at this point and do your centerpiece, that's fine, but I'm going to stretch it out more and add another layer. That's layer number 4. Let's put on 12 more zip ties. We can always bring the petals back when we're done putting in that last row, but I like giving myself a little bit more room to put on the petals. And at this point, we're going to do the opposite of our previous row, which means where we have the decorative mesh is where a petal is going to go, and where there's a petal, a decorative mesh piece is going to go. I have a decorative mesh in this spike, so I'm putting in my petal, quick zip tie. The 4th and final layer of the petals is in, and look how thick and beautiful this wreath is. You're not going to need any more. In total, I used 18 of the decorative mesh, 30 of the petals. Now we're going to take care of the center. To make the cruffles, I have my pipe cleaners that I prepared and the pieces of Deco mesh that I cut at 22 inches. And of course, I'm going to grab a little clamp to do the cruffles. On one side, I'm going to roll about 2-3 times and clamp. Then I'm going to roll from the other side around 3 times. And then I'm going to bring everything together. Squeezing it in the center, putting my pipe cleaner right over. At this point, I like to push the cruffle forward while tightening the back, and that way we have a very fluffy cruffle. Look at that. Let's make another cruffle. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 curls. Grab it with a clamp. 1, 2, 3 curls. Bring it together. Squeeze it in the center. Grab my pipe cleaner straight over the center. Now I'm going to push the whole cruffle forward while I take care of the back. Do a few twists, and there you go. My cruffles are done. I made 7 of these. Let's see how many I can fit. I'm going to go ahead and attach one every other spike and just twist it in the back. And one I want to put straight in the center. Can you already see how pretty this is gonna be? Putting in my last cruffle right in the center, just twisting it in the back. You can definitely leave your wreath like this, especially if you're going to do 3 colors, meaning, you know, the center is 1 color, then 2 colors on the sides. But for me, I want the greenery, I want the leaves. So I'm going to grab the 3 pieces that I had. It's always better to use a square piece, but that's okay. I'm working with what I have, and I'm just going to go kitty corner to kitty corner using an accordion petal, bringing it together. Then I'm going to use a zip tie and zip tie it in the center because we are dealing with felt and it's a little bit on the thicker side. Now we're going to take both of our leaves and overlap them a little bit, just like this. The part where our zip tie is, we're just going to gather. Because this part is bulky, we're going to put it underneath. Grab another zip tie. Now I'm going to tug a little bit, making sure that the zip tie stays in place, and zip tie it. And we're going to send the nub to the back, and there we have our leaves. I'm going to make 2 more of these leaves and spread them out on the wreath. I'm done attaching all the leaves. At this point, you can cover the back maybe with another piece of felt, maybe a beautiful lilac fabric. And then let's look at the front. Everything is beautiful. I'm just going to make sure that I straighten everything out. Maybe I need to move a petal back and forth. This is when I'm going to do it using the same color of decorative mesh as our Deco mesh. Gives this elegance to this beautiful, beautiful flower. I hope you enjoyed this wreath tutorial. I thought this wreath was so much fun to make, and flowers are just so beautiful for the summer months to have on your front door. With that being said, thank you so much for being with us, and we will see you in our next video. Is that you saying bye to everyone? You're such a sweetheart. Bye, guys. Say bye. Mwah.